How dare you leave me alone and go out? Are you even my wife anymore? I'm not playing around. I'm working. You say that, but aren't you meeting some guy? That's not the case at all. Despite taking care of household chores, childcare, and even looking after my father-in-law, he never shows any gratitude. Instead, it's just orders to do this and that. If this continues, it will wear me down both mentally and physically. Maybe you should take a break. I'd love to, but... Hey! How long are you gonna dawdle? Hurry up and come here. I'm treated not like family anymore. Perhaps it's more accurate to say a maid, no, a slave. When I call, you come right away. I'm sorry. I'm feeling good today. You're coming out with me. Where are we going? Just don't ask unnecessary questions. With that, he tried to forcibly take me out. Seeing this, my mother-in-law spoke up. I'm sorry. If I weren't in this condition, I could help you more. I'm fine. So please, take care of yourself and the kids. I'll handle that. Thank you. Where were we going today? Let's go, hurry up. It turns out the place my father-in-law wanted to go was an arcade, about an hour's drive away. You can only get there by car. That means I'm the one driving. Well, I'm heading out now. Don't you dare come back home. Understood. That's right. You're probably bored anyway, so pick me up some cigarettes. You have 10 minutes. I'm counting on you. This kind of thing happens every week. Unable to handle it ourselves, my mother-in-law and I decided to ask my husband to say something to his father. Then comes the phone call. What's up? What's going on? I wanted to talk about your father. Dad? His bullying has gotten especially bad lately. And? He's awful to your mother too. Don't you think that's wrong? That's why we need you to talk to him. Then my husband said something unbelievable. Why do I have to deal with that? Dad can barely move because of his injury. It's your job to accompany him. Don't call me with such trivial matters, seriously. That's no way to speak. I'm busy here. I'm hanging up now. I had put my last hope in this phone call. But now, that's over. I had completely forgotten, but my husband had been keeping secrets from us. Recently, we've been too caught up with my father-in-law's demands to even notice. How did it go? My mother-in-law came into the living room and asked about the phone call. Not good at all. He was no help. I see. At this point, I thought I might have to resort to drastic measures. If this continues, I might collapse again. In fact, I've been having worse dizzy spells over the past few days. I wasn't feeling well this morning either. What are you doing? Just feeling a bit dizzy. Dizzy? Shake it off with some willpower. Please, stop! Suddenly, I sat down, overwhelmed, and he began poking me with his cane. This shouldn't be allowed. But my father-in-law's tirade continued. Just then, my mother-in-law came in. What are you doing? It's because you don't stand up for yourself that this happens. Do you understand? He began hitting my mother-in-law with his cane. I covered her, holding my aching head. Stop this nonsense! Playing the hero, huh? You've always followed my orders before. Well, that's... You're not to blame, mother-in-law. I'll leave it at that for today. Now get to work if you understand. Are you okay? Any injuries? I'm fine. More importantly. Then, the doorbell rang. I'll get it. As I headed to the door, I received an envelope from Tom. Did something arrive? It's from Tom. My mother-in-law and I opened the envelope. Inside, there was a divorce paper already filled out. What's this? A divorce paper? It seems so. Realizing this meant he was telling us to file it, I understood what needed to be done. We might as well file it. Wait, are you really going to do it? Are you sure it's not a mistake? even my mother-in-law was flustered. But who sends a divorce paper by mistake? That's certainly not normal. And frankly, the circumstances of its arrival didn't matter to me. Whether it's a lie or a mistake, I don't care. What do you mean? Just wait a moment, please. With that, I told my mother-in-law the truth. And so, my husband was heading to hell. I am Yvonne, and I used to live with my husband and our 2 daughters. After graduating from college, I returned to my hometown and took a job as an office worker at a small company. I met Tom through an introduction by my then boss. Tom worked for a well-known corporate, quite the elite. A world completely different from my rural upbringing. Yvonne too? That means you, Tom, as well. I'm from the east side of the station. I'm from the west side. We have a lot in common. Who would have thought we were from the same hometown? Tom was 4 years older than me, and I hadn't realized we even went to the same high school until we met. Despite it being our first meeting, we hit it off over the common topic of our hometown. Man, I really had a great time today. Think we could meet again? Yes. Still, since Tom usually lived in New York, there was a distance between us. Luckily, he was just visiting home this time. From then on, we managed to meet whenever possible. We couldn't meet often, but I always looked forward to it. So, when Tom confessed to me 3 months later, I remember being truly happy. Are you sure I'm the one? Of course. He was smart and sophisticated. Just being with such a wonderful person was exhilarating. At that time, I was 26. After about a year of dating, we got married. So, Yvonne, I'd like you to come to New York with me. To New York? Yes. I work there. But, you'll have to quit your job. It wasn't realistic to continue working at my current job while starting our married life. Of course, my answer was yes. Yeah. I'll go to New York. Thank you. A year after moving to New York, I became pregnant. With Tom's support, I safely gave birth to our first daughter, Mia. The problem, though, was with my in-laws. When we first met to introduce ourselves, they seemed like genuinely nice people. But after Mia was born, it was like they became completely different people. We've come to see our granddaughter. And where is she? Mom, Dad, why are you here? Oh, shouldn't we have come? That's not what I meant. If they had just given me a heads up, I could have prepared things. So where's Mia? Please wait. It's her usual nap time right now. And? I wondered what was with these people. They just show up unannounced, say and do whatever they please, and then leave. Well, we'll be leaving for today. Next time, make sure to have some tea ready. That night, I discussed this with Tom. There's no way that's true. Are you saying I'm lying? Not exactly. All right, I'll talk to them next time. Okay? That should be good. Make sure you do. Don't worry so much. Besides, I might be getting a promotion soon. Really? Yeah. Then we could live even better. From then on, Tom started coming home late at night. I assumed he was just hard at work. Perhaps because Tom spoke to them, they quieted down a bit. I thought we could finally live in peace. However, a new problem arose. I had a childhood friend, Mirabelle. She also lived in New York, and we decided to go out for lunch after a long time. It's been a while. Really, how long has it been? Let's see, since Mia was born, so about 6 months? Even though we're both in New York. Well, I've been busy with the unfamiliar task of raising a child. After that, we engaged in light conversation. Mostly consisting of complaints. It seems it's the same everywhere, isn't it? Why does it end up like this? It's not like we did anything. Exactly. But we can't just ignore it. Then, Mirabelle pointed outside. Look, isn't that Tom? What? Looking outside, I saw a man walking across the street with a woman, arm in arm. They seem pretty close. Maybe a colleague? I hope so. It would be troublesome otherwise. Definitely. That was a laughing matter at the time, but I couldn't get that image out of my mind after I got home. It looked like they were arm in arm. I'm home. Why the troubled face? Oh, nothing. I initially dismissed it, but then I decided to ask. Actually, I met up with a friend today. While we were there, I saw someone who looked like Tom. He seemed to be arm in arm with a woman. I said it couldn't be, but... Of course not. He was supposed to be at work at that time. There was a moment of silence after I asked, which I didn't miss. His voice also seemed slightly shaky. If there's nothing going on, that's best, but this subtle uncertainty is troubling me. A year after Mia's birth, I was pregnant with our second child. Of course, I was happy, but about 6 months into the pregnancy, Tom called in a panicked voice. What's wrong? You seem rushed. Apparently, my dad had an accident. Oh? Is he okay? I don't know yet. I'm on my way to the hospital. I'll call you when I know more. The call ended. According to Tom, who came home looking exhausted, it seems that his mother was hit by a car while they were walking. The car's bumper hit her right leg directly. She was told that she might have a permanent disability in that leg. We might have to live together now. What? Dad won't be able to move well, and Mom has never been strong. But it's not that simple. I've thought about it. I can't do it. I understood what he was about to say next. I'm sorry, but you need to live with my parents together. I can't leave my job in New York. Wait. Couldn't we bring them here instead? No, they'll definitely want to stay in their own home. He was moving ahead without discussion. I'm really counting on you. Even if we live together, I won't be able to do much for a while, you know? What? Because I'm pregnant. Oh, right. But that'll be fine. Fine? How could it be fine? It's not fine at all. Tom immediately called his mother to arrange for them to move in. All I could do was sigh. I now have to live with 2 people I'm not fond of. And now I also have to take care of my father-in-law. All right. I got Mom's approval. So, when do I need to go there? Right now. What? That's impossible. Please, try to make it work. It's already night. And it's insane to think about traveling back to our hometown with my little child. Especially since I'm pregnant. It's impossible today. Since you made the plans on your own, I'll decide when we go. Okay, calm down, will you? How am I supposed to calm down now? Eventually, I ended up going to my in-laws 2 weeks later. I also set a condition that my mother-in-law would take care of my father-in-law until I gave birth to our second child. So, I ended up at my in-laws. But life there was worse than I imagined. The initial conditions were not respected, and my mother-in-law dumped not only caregiving but also all the household chores on me. Isn't this unreasonable? Why? Isn't that why you came? What happened to the agreement we made at the beginning? Did we make such a promise? Anyway, stop complaining and get to work. From then on, I struggled. With my limited mobility, I managed various tasks. Naturally, some areas were not well attended to. And my father-in-law couldn't stand it. Can't you even clean properly? There's too much to do. And yet you live off your husband's earnings and still act so high and mighty. This isn't about being high and mighty. The situation only got worse. Returning from a regular checkup, I found Tom at home, though he was supposed to be in New York. Why are you here? I've got something important to discuss. Please, have a seat. What could it possibly be? Actually, I've been assigned an overseas business trip. What? It seems my efforts have been recognized. That's my boy. That's great. Where to? Paris, in France. While his parents were excited, I felt the opposite. A business trip now, overseas no less. I'm sorry, but I need you to handle things here. I didn't respond. Not even a response? Then, Tom left for abroad within a week. I had doubts about how he could leave so quickly. By this time, my mental state was already deteriorating. And then an incident occurred. As usual, my father-in-law was making me run around for him. Already at my limit, I was bringing him tea as requested, but I spilled it. I'm sorry. It happened in an instant. Using the cane he needed since his hospital discharge. He jabbed it at my stomach. The pain, combined with the exhaustion from everyday stresses, began to blur my consciousness. I was so tired. I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. Someone must have called an ambulance. It's unbelievable that it had to come to this from my father-in-law. The hospital room door opened, and my mother-in-law came in. As soon as she saw me, she began to shed large tears. What happened? I'm truly sorry. I never thought it would come to this. She kept apologizing many times. According to her, she too had been unable to stand up to my father-in-law. But this incident, where I collapsed, made her realize the mistakes of her actions. She was actually a kind person. From now on, I will help you as much as I can, Yvonne. That's kind of you, but please don't overdo it. It seems the main causes of my collapse were overwork and stress. Furthermore, the baby in my belly was also safe and we could leave the hospital. Life from then on was remarkably more comfortable with my mother-in-law's help. She helped me out of sight of my father-in-law, who would get angry if he saw her assisting me. Thanks to her, I was able to give birth to my second daughter, Amelia. Thank you so much. Being able to deliver safely was also thanks to you. I didn't do much. Years flew by in the blink of an eye. Tom only came home about once a year, but even if briefly, he cherished the kids. You've gotten pretty good at holding them, haven't you? Really? Maybe you've been practicing? How could I practice? Maybe with stuffed animals? That's not possible. Aside from my father-in-law, there were no particular complaints. Having my mother-in-law on my side probably made a big difference. As the kids started going to daycare and I had some free time, I decided to take a part-time job at the company I used to work for. It's just for a few hours until the daughters come home, but it's a nice change of pace. As my mother-in-law got healthier, my father-in-law seemed to be weakening. He used to be able to walk with a cane, but now he spends most of his time in bed. Today, Yvonne, you rest. I'll take care of Dad. But that means... It's fine, it's fine. By this time, maybe my father-in-law was too tired to get angry, as he hardly complained anymore. However, as he couldn't move well, he became more demanding. Can't you even do this anymore? It's physically tough for me. Is that supposed to be an excuse? It's not an excuse. It's just the fact. Fact or lie, it doesn't matter to me. You just need to get the job done. Watching my mother-in-law being blamed by my father-in-law made me think if there was anything I could do. Eventually, we decided that when it came to taking care of my father-in-law, we would do it together as much as possible. If it was just one of us, the blame was one-sided, but being together helped distribute that. Hello? Yvonne, there's something I want to talk about. This one phone call would crystallize my anger towards Tom. It marked the beginning of the end. What's the rush? I'll explain it in person. Understood. I hurried to the cafe where we agreed to meet. 2 hours later, after catching the bullet train, I arrived in New York. Sorry, I got a bit delayed. It's completely fine. So, what did you want to talk about? Sorry to bring this up so suddenly, but there's something I need you to see. With that, Mirabelle showed me a photo. There, clearly, was Tom's face. And next to him, a woman I didn't recognize. When was this taken? Mirabelle had a troubled look on her face. Tell me. Yeah. This was taken the day before yesterday. The day before yesterday? I had told Mirabelle that Tom was supposed to be on a business trip overseas. She probably never imagined he would be in the US. That's why it must have been hard for her to tell me. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Can you send this to me? Of course. But what will you do next? I think I'll thoroughly investigate. If there's anything I can help with, just let me know. Thank you. I'll count on you when the time comes. I parted with Mirabelle. I managed to smile, but my mind was in turmoil. For the time being, I headed straight to a highly rated detective agency I found online. I explained the situation and asked for an investigation. Is he staying at that house in New York? I haven't heard anything about it being cancelled. First, I requested an investigation around the house we used to live in. As I left the office, I received a call from my mother-in-law. Hello? Yvonne, where are you? I'm sorry for not saying anything. I'm actually in New York right now. New York? Come back as soon as you can. Understood. She sounded quite panicked. I caught the bullet train back to my in-laws. When I opened the door, things were scattered everywhere. As I entered the living room, my mother-in-law was cleaning up. Mother-in-law, what happened here? Welcome back. Your father-in-law just had a rampage. What happened? I'm not sure myself. As I was helping my mother-in-law, my father-in-law entered the living room, visibly irritated. Finally back, huh? What's all this about? I lost big at the slots today. With my leg like this, that's about the only fun I can have. You can't be serious. I blurted out without thinking. What? We can't keep dealing with your outbursts. Having experienced an incident in New York, perhaps my frustration had built up because I spoke to my father-in-law more sternly than usual. But for him, with his high pride, this was unbearable. A wife lecturing me. He unsteadily approached the table and, grabbing a cup that was there, he threw it towards us. It didn't hit my mother-in-law or me directly, but it shattered spectacularly on the floor. Damn! Clean that up yourselves. With that, he went back to his room. What was he really trying to achieve? From then on, no matter how minor the issue, he would nitpick and unleash his anger. He truly embodied unreasonableness. And then one Sunday. How dare you go out and leave me alone? Are you even my wife anymore? I'm not playing around. I'm working. You say that, but aren't you meeting some guy? That's not the case at all. Despite taking care of household chores, childcare, and even looking after my father-in-law, he never shows any gratitude. Instead, it's just orders to do this and that. If this continues, it will wear me down both mentally and physically. Maybe you should take a break. I'd really like to, but... Hey! How long are you gonna dawdle? Hurry up and come here. I'm treated not as family anymore. Perhaps it's more accurate to say a maid, no, a slave. When I call, you come right away. I'm sorry. I'm feeling good today. You're coming out with me. Where are we going? Just don't ask unnecessary questions. With that, he tried to forcibly take me out. Seeing this, my mother-in-law spoke up. I'm sorry. If I weren't in this condition, I could help you more. I'm fine. So please, take care of yourself and the kids. I'll handle that. Thank you. Where did he say we were going today? Let's go, hurry up. It turns out the place my father-in-law wanted to go was an arcade, about an hour's drive away. You can only get there by car. That means I'm the one driving. Well, I'm heading out now. Don't you dare come back home. Understood. That's right. You're probably bored anyway, so pick me up some cigarettes. You have 10 minutes. I'm counting on you. This kind of thing happens every week. We realized we couldn't handle it anymore, so my mother-in-law and I decided to ask Tom to speak to his father. I then made the call. What's up? What's going on? I wanted to talk about your father. Dad? He's been especially bullying lately. And? He's awful to your mother too. Don't you think that's wrong? That's why we need you to talk to him. Then Tom said something unbelievable. Why do I have to deal with that? Dad can barely move because of his injury. It's your job to look after him. Don't call me with such trivial matters, seriously. That's no way to speak. I'm busy here. I'm hanging up now. I had placed my last hope in this phone call. But now, that's over. I had completely forgotten, but Tom had been keeping secrets from us. Recently, we've been too caught up with my father-in-law's demands to even notice. How did it go? My mother-in-law came into the living room and asked about the phone call. Not good at all. He was no help. I see. At this point, I thought I might have to resort to drastic measures. If this continues, I might collapse again. In fact, I've been having worse dizzy spells over the past few days. I wasn't feeling well this morning either. What are you doing? Just feeling a bit dizzy. Dizzy? Shake it off with some willpower. Please, stop! Suddenly, I sat down, overwhelmed, and he began poking me with his cane. This should not be allowed to happen. Yet my father-in-law's rampage continued. Just as my mother-in-law arrived. What are you doing? It's because you can't stand firm that this happens. Do you understand? My father-in-law began to hit her with his cane. I covered her, holding my aching head. Stop this madness! Playing the hero, huh? You always followed my orders before. Well, that's... It's okay. Mother-in-law, you're not to blame. I'll leave it at that for today. Now get to work if you understand. Are you okay? Any injuries? I'm fine. More importantly. Then, the intercom rang. Oh, I'll get it. As I headed to the door, I received an envelope from Tom. Did something arrive? It's from Tom. My mother-in-law and I opened the envelope. Inside, there was a divorce paper already filled out. What is this? A divorce paper? It seems so. Realizing this meant he was telling us to file it, I understood what needed to be done. We might as well file it. Wait, are you really going to do it? Are you sure it's not a mistake? Even my mother-in-law was flustered. But who sends a divorce paper by mistake? That's certainly not normal. And frankly, the circumstances of its arrival didn't matter to me. Whether it's a lie or a mistake, I don't care. What do you mean? Just wait a moment, please. I know who Tom really is. I went to the bedroom and retrieved a large envelope from the drawer. This will show you Tom's true nature. Inside were many photos and a report. It detailed his infidelity and revealed that his so-called business trips abroad were all lies. It was all to live with the woman in the photos. Does this mean we've been deceived for years? That's correct. And that's not all. Among the photos were some showing him like a family man. What's this? This is the real Tom. The child he is holding hands with is his. That's ridiculous. I had everything thoroughly investigated, so I'm sure it's accurate. What are you going to do now, Yvonne? Laughing, I responded. Of course, I'll take revenge. I'm not the kind of woman who stays quiet after all this. Hearing this, my mother-in-law looked serious and offered her help. Are you sure? Yes, absolutely. Shall we go now then? He's probably at this house at this time. My mother-in-law and I quickly prepared to leave the house. Watching us, my father-in-law asked, Hey! Where are you going at this hour? What about dinner? What? Do it yourself! It was the first time I'd seen my mother-in-law raise her voice like that. Even my father-in-law was so surprised that he just stood there with his mouth open. Let's leave him behind. Yes. We immediately boarded a bullet train to New York. I'm still feeling nervous. About leaving the house earlier? Yes. I wonder why I didn't speak up like that before. You were really impressive. We headed straight to the house as soon as we arrived in New York. I can't believe he's living here. I'm shocked too. But it probably seemed like the right opportunity for him, especially with Dad needing care after his injury. What a foolish thing to do. Let's go in. I pressed the intercom. And Tom came out. Why are you here? I think that's my line, isn't it? I'll come up for now. Wait. I went straight to the living room. There, a family was cozily gathered around the dinner table. Not long ago, I lived here. To get straight to the point, did you send the divorce papers? Huh? I didn't do anything like that. I see. So it was you. The woman's name was Faith. The investigation revealed she was a junior colleague of Tom's. I just wanted to get divorced quickly. Fine by me. What? After all, I'd rather be rid of a man like this. Also, if you're going to fake an envelope, you should at least pay attention to the postage. I threw the envelope at them. Despite supposedly coming from overseas, it had a local stamp and postmark. And since this is definitely infidelity, I'll be taking alimony and child support, of course. Just handle that properly, and you can do whatever you want. You! Can I say one more thing? Mom? There's something else important. Please take care of Dad too. I can't stand to live with someone like him. Why? I realized. There's no benefit to being with someone like him. That's why. Good luck with the caregiving. I'll leave the divorce papers just in case. Hey, wait! With that, we left the house. I will never forget Tom's face at that moment. By the way, what about your father? I might divorce too. Really? Then, why don't we live together? What? My kids would be happy too. Then we began preparing to leave the in-laws' house. At the same time, we relied on a lawyer to claim alimony and child support. Of course, my father-in-law tried everything to stop it. Damn it! I won't allow you to leave. Your opinion isn't needed. Let's just go. I don't want to be here for another second. But my mother-in-law's eyes were colder than I've ever seen. Afterwards, my mother-in-law and I moved to a different town. We couldn't be sure if my father-in-law wouldn't come if we stayed in the same town. As for Tom, after our divorce was finalized, it seems he continued living in that house with Faith. I thought about exposing him at his company, but I decided against it. If he were penniless, he wouldn't be able to pay child support. He will live with this burden for nearly 2 decades. Well, it can't be helped. From now on, we will walk a new path. No more ties. A path filled with hope and brighter prospects. At the airport, getting ready for our honeymoon, I pulled out the ticket holder from my bag, following my husband's instructions. That's when it happened. My husband snatched the plane ticket from my hand and threw these words at me. You're not worth it. I should have gone with someone else. He then ran towards another woman. Watching him, a secret smile crept onto my lips, and I took out my phone. Well, time to go as planned. My name is Michelle Anderson. Ever since I graduated from college, I've been working at a trading company in New York, now 30 years old. My husband of the same age, John, is a journalist registered with a publishing house. We met in the same college seminar. Back then, I wasn't particularly ambitious about my future job, but John, with his dreams, pursuing job opportunities, seemed radiant. He always said he wanted to be a reporter, chasing stories for newspapers or magazines. He definitely had a spark in him. Seeing each other often in the same seminar, our conversations grew more frequent over the course of 2 years. By the time graduation approached, I didn't want to part ways, so under his proactive approach, we started dating. We lived together for 3 years after graduation. Then, at 27, we made it official. However, we didn't have a wedding ceremony, reception, or even a honeymoon. Both our parents weren't thrilled about it, but while it was easy for me to get extended time off, John, who always prioritized his work, especially during incidents, couldn't do the same. What about life's milestones? What if something happens to one of your family members all of a sudden? Would you say the same? even when I said that. What are you talking about? Funerals are one thing, but weddings are a matter of personal choice. The stories I'm chasing right now can't wait. I couldn't argue with that. After all, John's job was relentless, around the clock. I remember how ecstatic he was the year before we got married, as he finally got assigned to the editorial department of the weekly magazine he'd always wanted to work for. Now, he's busier than ever, working day and night. Well, not just now. Even before we lived together, his apartment was a mess, only coming home to sleep. One of the reasons we started living together was that I got tired of cleaning up his place every weekend. I was the one who chose and signed the lease for our new apartment. Except for sharing his preferences for location, rent, and size, he didn't do much else. We split the rent and living expenses. He sometimes forgot to pitch in. I took care of the cleaning and laundry. Even though we lived together, we rarely saw each other. The main reason for our official union was my desire to hold on to him, even if it was just a formality. For John, perhaps a wedding ceremony seemed unnecessary. But for me, even if it was just symbolic, I wanted a commemoration, a milestone. At the very least, I suggested we should take some photos and go on a short honeymoon nearby. But all I got in return was, "Why just take pictures? If you want to go on a trip, why not go with your friends? I ain't got time for that." Many of my college friends who were in the same seminar would say, "That's not right." But those who knew about his job often replied, "It can't be helped." 3 years have passed. We're now 30. Even though I want to discuss having children, John and I often have opposite schedules, making it hard to find the right moment. All I do is rush between work and household chores every day. I started wondering, why did we even get married? But then one day, John said this out of the blue. "Hey Michelle, didn't you mention wanting to go on a honeymoon before?" "Yeah, but aren't you too busy?" "Nah, looks like I might get some decent time off. We can go if you want." "Really?" "I'll set the duration, you choose the rest." His tone did bother me, but I still noted down the dates he mentioned. A week's time. And it's gonna be summer. So I thought maybe a cooler place would be good, so I considered going to Alaska. I went to the bookstore, picked up a few travel guides, marked places I wanted to visit, and showed them to John. "Hey, can you look at this? I want to go here." Before I could ask him where he wanted to go, he dismissed me with a wave of his hand. You choose. I'm fine with anything." Oh, okay. Something felt off to me then. Maybe it's unfair to expect much from John with his busy daily life. But this is supposed to be our honeymoon. Our very first milestone. I wanted to discuss and decide the destinations with him. Is it wrong for me to hope for that? Even though we've lived together for years, our lives barely intersect. When was the last time we had a meal together? I realized that we hardly ever spoke to each other. Even when I initiate a conversation, he often responds with phrases like "do whatever you want" and "I might let you handle it if you insist." Come to think of it, that's how he's been about chores as well. I remember John, back in college, saying something like this to everyone. "In today's age, couples should both earn and equally share household chores. Splitting chores is just fair. You sure you can handle that? I can cook, at least." I was quite impressed at the time. He wasn't wrong. Although he mostly eats out, occasionally he seems to cook for himself. I often find dishes I didn't use in the sink. But all other chores are on me. I always end up cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, taking out the trash, everything. Now, John rarely comes home at the same time I do. Once in a blue moon, we get to have dinner together, and it's a relief. But even then, he's constantly glancing at his phone on the table. Once dinner's over, he quickly moves to the living room, seemingly messaging someone on social media. All the while, I'm busy cleaning up. One day, slightly irritated by his indifference, I commented, "You seem awfully busy texting." "Well, unlike you, I have work contacts to keep up with." He probably wasn't wrong. By the way, he often leaves his smartphone unattended. Like when he's taking a bath or napping on the living room couch. It was by pure chance that I peeked into it. He was messaging a woman. Who is this person? At that moment, I shoved my smartphone screen in front of a groggy, just awakened John. The name on the screen read Anna Johnson. Multiple messages from John's side lined up, reading things like "How've you been, and you okay since then?" Who? Oh, she's related to the case I'm currently working on. Is there a problem? You're texting someone related to the case every single day? Well, if I have questions, I've got to show some sincerity, right? But doesn't she seem annoyed by it? You have a problem with how I do my job? I couldn't really argue when he brought up work. But decide soon where we're going. I might not be back until the last minute because of the case I'm investigating. Pack our bags, will you? Yes, that had just happened recently. And finally, the day of our trip arrived. John, who said he might not make it home in time, surprisingly woke up early and in high spirits. Then, I'm gonna make breakfast, he said, placing a plate of toast, bacon and eggs, and a salad in front of me. I became suspicious when he also set down a pot of coffee, as it was so unlike him. What's with that look? When I decide to do something, I do it. Sure, it was just store-bought potato salad, undercooked bacon, and instant soup, but there was no need to make it seem so special. I kept those thoughts to myself and quietly ate. Here, your luggage. Thanks, looks like you packed it well. Aren't you gonna check inside? I'll check later. If you say so. We headed straight for the airport. By the way, our destination written on the tickets was Alaska. We had plans to travel around different parts of the state. We took the tram to the domestic terminal and headed for the boarding gate. As we were approaching, John suddenly stopped in his tracks. Hey, have your boarding pass ready? I can get it out quickly. As I began to pull out the ticket holder, he snatched the tickets from me, saying, "What a waste to travel with you. I should go with someone else." With that, he ran towards the boarding gate. There was a woman standing ahead. That's Anna Johnson. He had a picture in his smartphone. That's definitely her. I caught a glimpse of that, smirked discreetly, and took out my own smartphone. Well, shall we head out as planned? A few hours later, I was at the terminal building of an airport in Alaska. Headed straight for the domestic exit, right up to the famous pastry shop in the dessert corner on the second floor. I knew John and Anna were at the eat-in space there. I confidently walked in and approached the two of them who were enjoying an airport-exclusive sundae. Found ya. John, who had been gazing dreamily at Anna, suddenly paled, a bit of ice cream still on the corner of his mouth, looking at me as if he'd seen a ghost. Wait. Why are you here, Michelle? Anna jumped up and threw herself at me. Michelle, I've been so scared. I gently rubbed her trembling back, while giving John a stern look. What do you mean, why am I here? Do you know how many flights from different airlines land there? I just took the earliest one. Are you really a journalist? Not even knowing something so basic. Ugh. Exactly. How can you not even realize that, John? What kind of journalist are you? From behind me, a deep male voice slowly approached, making John look even more tense. Why? Why is the editor here? Let's not make a scene here. Let's step outside. The man called editor was Mr. Long, the chief editor of my husband's department. When we got married, he and his wife had invited us to dinner as a celebration. At that time, we exchanged numbers just in case. As the charismatic Mr. Long grabbed his arm, John shivered. Anna, walking beside me, intertwined her arm with mine, while John looked on, completely baffled. Every time he tried to get closer to Anna, Mr. Long would firmly hold back John's hand. We pretended not to notice as John clicked his tongue in annoyance. It's less crowded over here. We headed towards a special room on the third floor we had reserved earlier. A man already inside stood up and waved at us. Hey, over here! John's expression turned to shock and he stopped in his tracks. Come on, why are you stopping? Wait, Michelle, why is my dad there? Well, you left me behind, so I just invited everyone. Why not make it a family trip? That's right. It's your fault for thinking you could go on a honeymoon with another woman. Mr. Long started dragging John. It's okay. I whispered to Anna, and she nodded. Sorry for the wait, mother and father-in-law. We've managed to capture John. Capture? Exactly, a man who thinks of going on a honeymoon with another woman should be captured, don't you think? Even you, Mom? And you used Michelle's money for all this, didn't you? Father-in-law? Yes, it wasn't just the in-laws. My parents were there too. And another man, in a suit with glasses. So, is this the young lady in question? Who are you? Sorry for the late introduction. I am. He handed a business card to John. A lawyer? Why? In fact, I received a request from both Michelle and Anna here, John said. Michelle did? Wait, more importantly, Anna, why on earth? John reached out to her as he said this. However, his hand missed as Anna dodged it. Stop it. Anna? I'm sorry, Anna. I managed to get her out here with your help, but it seems that was my limit. No, I'm sorry. If this settles everything. Settles? What are you talking about? You've been following Anna around for a while, haven't you? You're saying I've been stalking her? Is that not the case? It's not. I spoke to Anna about the incident that happened the other day. So after that was over, you kept in touch even though the article was done? For stories like this, you're supposed to keep in touch with the people involved. Mr. Long slapped John on the head from above. I apologize, Ms. Johnson. I told him not to publish any more articles about the incident you were involved in. Yes, I thought so. Look at the messages this man has been sending me. The lawyer handed out printouts of the messages to everyone. What is this? Thank you for your cooperation. Would you like to grab dinner sometime? And you kept inviting her long after she declined. I mean, it's just common courtesy. I was drawn to your brave attitude. What's this about? She truly was brave. Despite the incident, she tried so hard to recover. John. The voice of John's father-in-law boomed. What on earth are you saying? Drawn to her? Ms. Johnson, I won't ask about what happened, but I know you were hurt. Yet, it seems this fool kept reminding you of it when you were trying to forget. Anna nodded with tears in her eyes. I only cooperated because he promised to write properly about the incident. Yet, he kept coming up with reasons to ask me out afterward. And the volume of messages too. And he knows where I live. That's right. There's also this. The lawyer handed out several pictures. They showed John with a camera next to a window of a 2-story apartment complex. It's the apartment I live in. You were up to this? Hearing that, Anna shivered again. I've made up my mind. I'm gonna report him for stalking. What are you talking about? Anna began to speak as if a dam had broken. Every single day, he asks, what are you doing? Can we meet tomorrow? Even though he's heard about the incident, he persists even after I tell him there's nothing more to discuss. But you replied to my texts, didn't you? Who do you think is enjoying this conversation? Exactly. Thanks for today, how've you been? Yeah. You know what's good when you're tired? A massage. I'll come over and give you one sometime. I'm busy now. Stuff like that. And what's with the creepy "are you in the bath" messages? I chuckled as I flipped through the thick printout. Yes, I really appreciate everything Michelle did. She advised me to keep records of everything. Oh, come on. It must have been scary, right? To deal with someone spouting nonsense like that. It was terrifying. Anna shivered. How could you think from those messages that I was into you? It was just plain creepy. But about our trip. It was a final blow for you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bothered with this terrifying plan. Terrifying plan? You still don't get it? I sighed deeply. That was my name on it, right? Huh? He probably realized it was about the airline ticket. Oh, right, it was. What about it? Mr. Long spoke in a hushed tone. You know, if that's found, it's a crime. Exactly. And if someone gets caught, it won't be you. It's her. He gasped. He truly seemed unaware. Mr. Long put his head in his hands. I can't believe how stupid my subordinate has been. You too? Shut up. You're gonna use this to fly to the Philippines. With that, Mr. Long shoved the ticket in John's face. What? Why? There are various matters to investigate over there now. You can refuse if you want, but if you do. Mr. Long turned to Anna. Yes. If you decide to stay in the country, I'll report you to the police for stalking. I get it. But I don't have my luggage, my passport. The passport. Here. It was my turn to hand it over to him. Oh, right. There's something important. Sign this before you go. I handed him the divorce papers with my signature. Divorce papers? Are you abandoning me too? Oh, what are you saying to the wife who went to such lengths to prevent you from getting a criminal record? I'm the one who runs our home. I laughed dramatically. But then I changed my expression. Do you have any idea how much of a proper married life we had in that house? We hardly ever saw each other. Both working full-time, and yet all the housework falls on me. Plus, you haven't been contributing to our shared living expenses or rent recently. Really? I get paid just fine from my job. I know. I've looked into what you've been spending it on. Like those high-end cameras at this apartment. Just sign it. Seeing my fury, his face turned pale as a ghost. He shakily signed the papers and handed them back. All right, the rest is up to you. Sorry for everything, said Mr. Long as he escorted John towards the international flight counter. We chose to settle on the third floor instead of the spacious lounge on the second floor. Why? Because the third floor of this airport is where the international terminal is located. The plan was to easily get him on a flight to Manila. As for what happens to him next, that's none of our business. After that, I moved from the condo I had been living in to a small apartment meant for living alone. The number of rooms decreased, and there's nothing unrelated to me. No more buying groceries for someone who I don't know when they'll be back. How easy house chores are when it's just for myself. I realized just how much unnecessary struggle I've been through while living with John. The moving expenses were covered by my father-in-law. He also settled the living expenses and rent John forgot to pay. My in-laws, lamenting that they raised their son wrong, were such kind folks. About a month later, I got a call from Mr. Long. Apparently, John got caught up in some trouble overseas and got arrested. Was it some kind of crime? I really don't know. Our editorial department didn't ask him to get involved in any crimes or anything. Just told him to send daily updates on the situation over there. Well, I've heard various stories like he got deceived or got addicted to gambling. Told him if he could get a big scoop, we might let him return. Seems like John got too ambitious and ruined himself, Mr. Long indirectly implied to me. Since then, I haven't heard any rumors of him coming back. Michelle, over here. At the cafe we had arranged to meet, Anna signaled me. I quickly approached her table. Sorry for the wait. All set? Absolutely. How about you, Michelle? Look. I showed her the fan merchandise for the concert we were going to. We shared a cheerful smile, had a quick coffee, and then headed for the venue. During the time I was communicating about John's issue, I found out that Anna and I were fans of the same musician and we hit it off. We had promised to attend a concert together once everything was settled. Today was the long-awaited day. After getting married, I had forgotten such joys amidst the conflicting schedules with John. Now, I can spend time just for myself, with friends sharing the same hobby. Oh, I'm truly glad I made that decision back then. How dare you! With those words from my mother-in-law, I was kicked out of the house. My mother-in-law, Patricia, had been injured and was urgently taken to the hospital. I had rushed there with my husband, Mark, only to be suddenly confronted with such an accusation. All eyes, including those of my husband and father-in-law named Bill, turned to me. And so, I was expelled from the family for an unfounded crime. But I had no memory of doing anything wrong. Later, with advice from a certain individual, I realized there was a shocking truth about Patricia. My name is Sarah. I'm a 37-year-old housewife. I've been a housewife since I got married to Mark 10 years ago. I don't have many friends, so I mostly stay at home. Mark and I have been dating since college and decided to get married a while after we both started working. A few years back, we started living with my father-in-law Bill and mother-in-law Patricia. Originally, we wanted to have kids, and decided against living together considering the kids. But, we found out we had trouble conceiving. We tried infertility treatments desperately, but couldn't have a child. Continuing the treatments would not only be expensive but also mentally stressful, so we decided not to have children. That's when talks about living with my in-laws began. Honestly, I wasn't too keen on the idea. But my in-laws didn't seem like bad people, so I thought maybe living with them might be okay. We began living together on the condition that Mark would always have my back. Considering the age of Patricia and Bill, I handled most of the household chores. I'd wake up at 5 a.m., adjusting to their schedule, and make breakfast. Lunch was made according to their individual schedules. I did the cleaning daily and sometimes even drove them to the hospital when I had some spare time. I did my best for my in-laws and I thought our relationship wasn't that bad. But one day, I overheard a conversation between Patricia and Bill. That day, I had plans to have lunch with a friend, so I made lunch for my in-laws early and left the house. I was enjoying lunch at a cafe with my friend, but she had to leave early because her daughter got a fever. As a result, I ended up parting ways with my friend a few hours earlier than we had originally planned. I thought about making a detour somewhere, but I just did my grocery shopping for dinner and headed straight home. I figured my elderly in-laws would feel more at ease if I was home. After finishing shopping, I opened the front door and headed for the living room. There's a hallway leading to the living room, and my in-laws' bedroom is off of it. I heard them conversing as I walked by. They usually keep their door completely shut, but that day it was slightly ajar, allowing their conversation to filter out. I wasn't initially curious about their conversation, but the moment I was about to walk past, I heard my name. Intrigued, I wanted to know what they were discussing. Leaning close to the door, I was met with a barrage of shocking words. "Sarah's out having lunch with her friend again. She did the same just recently. Despite being a full-time homemaker, she lives a carefree life. Without Mark, she wouldn't be able to maintain that lifestyle. Well, maybe Sarah just needs a break every once in a while. But I do feel it's unfair. We can't dine out because of our health, yet she goes out all the time on her own." Exactly. Why did he marry her? I wished he married the one he was dating before. Besides, Sarah has a rather unrefined side. Her cooking isn't great either. I discovered that especially my mother-in-law had a negative perception of me. I had never heard such comments directly, and Mark had never mentioned that his parents disliked me. So this was my first time realizing that they did. Knowing they disliked me made interactions with them somewhat awkward. Of course, I continued with my usual chores and tasks, but the conversations between us started dwindling. It was hard to confide in Mark, and if I did, confronting the in-laws would likely lead to denial, making my case harder. As I pondered what to do next, things took a worse turn. My mother-in-law's cherished necklace went missing. And shockingly, she blamed it on me. She demanded a search of my room, and to prove my innocence, I complied. Though I was certain I hadn't taken it, Patricia's necklace mysteriously emerged from a drawer containing my jewelry. "See, I knew it was her. She always eyed my necklace with envy. I bet she's taken other things too. With that, Mark and my father-in-law frantically searched my room. In the end, only the necklace was found. I was left standing in the middle of the room, feeling ostracized. From that day on, I was treated like a thief, distanced by the family. They wouldn't listen to any of my explanations. To make matters worse, my mother-in-law was spreading nasty rumors about me throughout the neighborhood. That woman stole my necklace. Can you believe it? And she keeps denying it, even though it was found in her room. Given the talk every time I left the house, I was met with cold stares. Life went on this way for a while, and being home became increasingly uncomfortable. Usually, I would stay home, engage in my hobby of crafting, and converse with my in-laws. However, lately, I had been spending more time outside. After preparing breakfast for the in-laws in the morning, I would head out. I'd kill time at diners or comic book stores until Mark returned from work. One day, I received a call from Mark informing me that his mother had been urgently hospitalized. "Where are you?" "Mom fell down some stairs at a pedestrian bridge and got injured. Please come to the nearest hospital from the house. Dad and I will be with Mom," Mark said hurriedly, before hanging up. I happened to be close to the hospital at that moment, so it only took me about 5 minutes to get there on foot. After quickly finishing up some errands, I walked briskly to the hospital where I heard my mother-in-law had been taken. I asked a nurse which room she was in, and as I headed to the room, I had an ominous feeling. When I opened the door, everyone present turned to look at me simultaneously. Their gazes were sharp and hostile, like they were looking at a villain. I thought my bad feeling might be right. Then, my mother-in-law pointed at me and shouted, "How dare you?" When I asked what was going on, she exclaimed, "Don't play dumb. You pushed me down the stairs. When I was walking over the pedestrian bridge near the house, I felt someone push me from behind. It hurt so much when I fell, but with the last of my strength, I looked up, and there you were. You vanished before others gathered, but I'm sure it was you." "No, I didn't." I tried to explain that it wasn't me, but my husband and father-in-law interrupted. "I never thought you'd be capable of such a thing. Just leave our home." "I agree. This is for the best. You two had issues before. It's better if you live separately." "That's right. Just leave. You're not family. And Mark, you should divorce her." "Yeah, I'm going to," Mark said. Without being able to defend myself, it was decided that we would divorce, and I would be ousted from the family. Leaving the hospital before my husband and father-in-law, I felt lost. I never imagined things would turn out this way, and my parents live far away. It would take a lot of effort to move my belongings there. Moreover, my parents were strict, and I didn't know what they'd say if I told them I was divorcing. However, at that moment, I thought they were the only ones I could rely on. On my way home from the hospital, I called my mother. "I'm sorry. I'm gonna get a divorce and I want to come back for a while. Is that okay?" Hearing the tone of my voice, my mother sensed something was wrong. "Okay, I understand. I'll tell your father. Just pack what you can for tomorrow. We'll rent a large vehicle and come over." When I got home, I packed my belongings as my mother instructed. I couldn't take everything, so I left the furniture. I packed my clothes, accessories, and mementos in boxes. I came across a photo of me and my husband. I wasn't sure if I should keep it. I loved him and I thought we could have lived happily together if it weren't for this incident. But I knew there was no going back. I'm sure he'll contact a divorce lawyer by tomorrow, and I've decided to throw away all the pictures of my husband once and for all. The next day, my parents came over in a large truck that could carry all my stuff. "Long time no see. You probably didn't sleep well last night. I'll drive, so you just rest in the car." And my father drove the long 6-hour journey by himself. My father had told me to get some sleep, but tears streamed down my face in the back seat, overwhelmed by my parents' kindness. I wasn't sure if they noticed or not, but they, sitting in the front, didn't say a word to me. After about 3 hours, my parents and I made it back home safely. I know you're tired, but could you tell me a bit more about what happened? You haven't done anything wrong, right? Given the situation, there's a chance you could be arrested, so I really want you to tell me everything, my parents asked, looking for more details. I explained that I was suspected of stealing my mother-in-law's necklace and now was being accused of pushing her down the stairs.
That's a lie, right? Why would anyone make up such a story?
I think someone either wanted to harass you, or they had something to hide. That's the only 2 options I see.
Something to hide? Maybe someone who shouldn't have been there was present and Patricia got seriously injured by accident. So they're trying to blame it on Sarah to cover it up, maybe?
What my father said made sense. But I had always thought such things only happened in TV shows or movies. No official complaint was made, and I just wanted to get a peaceful divorce. However, it seemed my parents thought otherwise. Well, it made sense. If their only daughter was being framed, they'd naturally want to prove her innocence.
Maybe we should do a bit more investigation? I'll also reach out to some folks I know.
Considering my parents' advice, I decided to look deeper into the matter. Just as I was about to look into the situation in detail, divorce papers from my husband's attorney were mailed to my parents' house. I thought having the divorce papers in front of me might make me reconsider. But to my surprise, I realized my feelings for my ex-husband Mark were gone. Probably because he had never supported me. Over time and through various events, I just didn't love Mark anymore. Having finally cut ties with Mark and both his parents, I began to seriously investigate the incident. Patricia, who used to be my mother-in-law, doesn't seem to have filed a complaint, and it appears the police and hospital staff find it a bit suspicious. Given the fuss she made, everyone probably expected her to file a complaint. Digging deeper would be quite a hassle. So, I decided to seek help from my father. He used to work for the NYPD, so he has many connections within the force. He was able to arrange for me to view the security footage from the nearby cameras. Security cameras don't store footage for very long, but thankfully, the footage around the staircase where Patricia was allegedly pushed was still available. Examining the footage closely, it was clear that Patricia was indeed pushed down the stairs. However, no matter how much they zoomed in, it wasn't me. To further solidify my alibi, I checked the footage from where I was at the same time. It showed me taking care of some business. This proved my innocence. Turns out, when I got the call about Patricia's accident, I was at a different hospital. Having endured more than my fair share of harassment from Patricia and her group, I had been visiting a psychiatrist. That day, I had an appointment, and the footage showed me leaving the psychiatrist's office. This confirmed I wasn't to blame, but I wasn't gonna let it end there. To clear my name from all the humiliation I'd suffered, I chose to confront Patricia and her group head-on. I brought an attorney with me and headed to Mark's house. After consulting with an attorney, it turned out that due to the emotional distress I suffered, I might be able to claim compensation. At home, there were Mark, Patricia, and Bill, my ex-father-in-law, all staring at us with puzzled looks.
Who's that guy? Why bring someone like that here now? I said I wouldn't press charges, so you should be grateful.
In response to Patricia, the attorney presented a document.
What's this?
The document stated that I was not the cause of Patricia's injury, and that someone else had pushed her down the stairs.
I apologize for the late introduction. I am Sarah's attorney. As mentioned in this document, Sarah was somewhere else on the day you testified that she was pushed down the stairs. Of course, we've already verified the truth with security camera footage. If you'd like, I can show you the footage. And there was another person visible near the stairs besides you, Patricia.
When the attorney explained that much, Patricia quickly pulled the document towards herself.
What the heck is this? Just when I thought you'd suddenly show up, this is all in the past. I said I'd forgive you, so please don't bring it up anymore. Patricia was clearly panicking.
Both Mark and Bill seemed suspicious.
Why are you so flustered? If Mom didn't do anything wrong, you should be confident about it. That's right. We're on Patricia's side, after all.
Despite their reassuring words, Patricia's face grew paler.
Aren't you too curious about who pushed Patricia down the stairs? I do wonder. Who was it? Who would do such a thing to my dear wife? I won't forgive them. Well, hold on a sec.
Ignoring Patricia's attempt to stop me, I continued.
It was Patricia's affair partner. Her affair partner?
Patricia had been infatuated with a man for some time. That man was a bartender, and Patricia had gone into debt just to lavish money on him. However, no matter how much money she gave him, he never truly belonged to her. Frustrated, Patricia confronted him. That confrontation took place at the top of those stairs. Even though the Patricia didn't own the man, reports indicate that there was a physical relationship between them. It seems Patricia was waiting for the man to leave the bartender job, but he showed no signs of leaving and often went out with other customers. The man had always seen Patricia as a troublesome client, and in a fit of anger, he allegedly pushed her down the stairs. Realizing the gravity of his actions, the man tried to help Patricia, but she said, "It's okay. We'll say my daughter-in-law did this. You should go home." Unable to approach the police for this particular investigation, they had no choice but to hire a private investigator. Pictures capturing the two are clear, and there's no way to deny it. Upon presenting the evidence to the police, an immediate investigation was launched, and the man was arrested. During interrogation, he confessed everything that transpired between him and Patricia on the staircase.
Tell me it's a lie. Please say it isn't true. Cheating, huh? You're the worst.
Realizing there's no escaping the truth, Patricia immediately began to apologize.
I'm sorry. I was just so lonely. What do you mean, lonely? I've always been there for you. We're getting a divorce. I don't want to hear any excuses.
Upon being exposed, Patricia faced an immediate decision of divorce. Though she tried desperately to salvage her relationship with Bill, he was too enraged to listen. Mark, too, was shocked to learn of his mother's infidelity and looked at Patricia with disgust. Moreover, the amount of debt Patricia accumulated to lavish the man was several $100,000, an amount she couldn't possibly repay with her pension alone. Patricia wasn't the type to save money, so repaying the debt would likely take a significant amount of time. She begged Mark for help, but he snapped back, "Are you kidding me? Because of your lies, I divorced Sarah. I'm not giving you a single dime for the money you borrowed for your lover." In the end, Patricia faced both a divorce and being disowned by Mark. Unable to repay the money and left without a place to stay, Patricia had no choice but to sadly return to her own home. To pay off the debt as soon as possible, it seems that Patricia's elder brother, who took over the family house, has taken on the responsibility. However, she'll be isolated until she repays all the money to him. Patricia can't just go outside as she pleases, and she doesn't have any money to spend freely. When Patricia receives her pension, it's all ordered to be given to her brother. I bet she regrets mingling with that bar and harassing me. I haven't seen Patricia since then, but apparently, the once youthful-looking Patricia has aged considerably. And for me, having been mentally tormented by those three on a daily basis, I managed to get a small amount in damages. From a certain point, whenever I spoke to those three, I always made sure to have a voice recorder on, so I had more than enough evidence when claiming for damages. Later on, I received numerous messages and voicemails from Mark expressing his wish to reconcile. But I'm not gonna get back with Mark. Even though he had promised to always be on my side when we moved in together, just thinking of being with Mark, who couldn't even keep that single promise, gives me the creeps. I'm sure if we were together in the future, I'll find more unpleasant things about him, and in the end, I'd be the one getting hurt. It seems Mark and Bill are living together, but with Patricia and I gone, their house is said to be filled with a cold atmosphere. Bill isn't very strong health-wise, so he needs regular hospital visits. Mark juggles his job and housework while also driving Bill to and from the hospital. It must be quite tough for him. I get diary-like messages from him every day about his daily struggles, but I usually send them straight to the trash without reading all of them. Since divorcing Mark, I've been enjoying my single life. I've successfully found a new job, and I became a beauty advisor, something I've always wanted to be. Up until now, I was always occupied with looking after Mark and my in-laws, so my own beauty regimen was always on the back burner. During a time when I was away from my in-laws, I once visited a department store's cosmetics section. There, I received advice on how to enhance my beauty and was told how to be more confident. That was the first time in my life I felt so confident, and I believe the beauty advisor at that time played a huge role in making me who I am today. That's why I decided to pursue a career as a beauty advisor, hoping to inspire others the way I was inspired. Although the job involves many behind-the-scenes tasks and challenges, I find it fulfilling. Thankfully, since becoming a beauty advisor, I've received many compliments on my appearance. I've started to attract attention from men. A while back, a man approached me at a cafe, and we've been on several dates since. Just the other day, after confessing his feelings, we officially started dating. He knows I'm divorced, and even after knowing my past, he expressed his feelings for me. Unlike Mark, he's always supportive, and he's the first one to lend a hand when I'm in need. It's been 3 years since my divorce from Mark, and I'll soon turn 40. Lately, I've been pondering if remarrying wouldn't be such a bad idea. But first and foremost, I want to be someone I'm proud of and want to continue improving myself. I genuinely wish that women with feelings like mine would be more confident and speak up without fear.